Good evening. My name is Peter Lacey, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Barstow School. Welcome to Barstow's 2016 Commencement Ceremony, marking 132 years of education in Kansas City. Thank you for coming to help us recognize these very accomplished young men and women. This spectacular ceremony is one of Barstow's many great traditions. To the class of 2016, shortly you will receive the distinguished title of Graduate of the Barstow School, one of the very best schools in the country. You earn this title through hard work and determination, as well as much support from family, friends, teachers, and school administrators who worked hard to make this day possible for you. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I would like to especially thank the parents of these soon-to-be graduates for entrusting Barstow with your children's education and for generously supporting this outstanding school. I'd also like to recognize the incredibly talented faculty and staff sitting before you who have dedicated themselves to helping each student succeed in the classroom, on the playing field, and within their community. Barstow would not be the outstanding school it is without these great people. Since its founding in 1884, Barstow's mission has remained the same: to promote sound scholarship and give symmetrical development to mind, body, and character. Through adherence to this mission, as well as embracing educational innovation, Barstow has consistently graduated individuals who have gone to be leaders in their chosen field. Barstow is very proud of its alumni and their service and contributions to the world, and we know you will live up to the high standards set by others as you take your place among them. Congratulations, welcome, and enjoy the ceremony.
Mr. Lacey, Ms. Bartow, Mr. Ernest, trustees, faculty, staff, parents, and friends, and of course the class of 2016, good evening, and what a fabulous evening it is. At 2 o'clock this afternoon, I did not think it would be possible to be out here, and I would like to thank my staff as well as the maintenance staff for making this happen. So please give them a round of applause. It is now my great honor to introduce our salutatorian. Sophia Morrow, a Barstow Knight since first grade, credits all of her success to the support of teachers and fellow students. As an upper school student, she dedicated her time to the Beeline as an editor for 3 years. She is a proud recipient of the Congressional Award for Achievement in Community Service, Personal Development, and Physical Fitness. Each fall, she ran varsity cross country and was the captain her senior year. Junior and senior year, Sophia organized a citywide food drive benefiting area education and social services, facility Operation Breakthrough, and community food network Harvesters. Sophia is a member of Barstow's Cum Laude Society, Spanish Honor Society, and National Honor Society chapters. She will be attending Georgetown in the fall, where she plans to continue pursuing an interest in Turkish language and international relations. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our salutatorian, Sophia Morrow.
Welcome, everyone. Nobody wants to be here, and nobody wants to leave. Cormac McCarthy offers this quote in The Road, a post-apocalyptic search for a sense of place. Little depressing for a start, but hear me out. Our class literally walked our own road to arrive here. Last week, we set out as a ragged group from the old Cherry Street campus, heading 11 miles on foot to land right here as a unified, though weary, whole. That cathartic journey capped off a 4-year search for our place, a place that nobody really wants to leave. The footprint that our class has left on the hallways behind me provides a snapshot of how we have evolved from 60 individual students into this singular entity that finished the walk together, the senior class. We arrived as newcomers to the upper school. 23 started together as lifers, and others have come and gone along the way. Freshman year, we were, quite literally, space invaders. We clogged the hallways, trapping unsuspecting passerby with awkward limbs. I'm not particularly proud of our freshman year spatial legacy. We were a blob. Sophomore year, with lockers spread out all over the upper school, we metastasized, avoided centrally locating ourselves, instead resorting to smaller groupings throughout the commons and languages hallway. Junior year brought a swarm, and unfortunately for Mrs. Hopkins, the library became the hive of our activity. But this year, senior year, we became whole again as the gravity of familiarity brought us together. The senior lounge attracted us as a black hole sucks in matter, forming us into one mass. In the place we called our own, we decorated with discarded Carl soccer portraits, a space heater, and comfy, if a bit sketchy, couches. On the last day, we took over our physical space for the final time, blasting Don't Stop Believin' from John's speaker and throwing a mini dance party in the senior hallway. We come from all over to be right here, from a mighty 35.9-mile commute. Shout out to Savannah. I hope you have a hybrid. To the to the mere 0.8 miles it takes Armand to drive here. Seriously, you actually drive 0.8 miles. We make commitment to unite in one place. Barstow's halls and classrooms have given us a concrete, physical space to call home. Though our physical presence will fade as the incoming seniors occupy what was once ours, the spiritual legacy of the class of 2016 cannot be replicated. We were the agreeable class, causing very little trouble. The 35 sports-playing seniors made invaluable contributions to each sport they participated in, not just in the banners and trophies that overflow the gym walls, but also in feats of sportsmanship. 20 ceramicists, photographers, illustrators, and painters put 4 years of stellar work on display during the senior art show. We've sung and played our way to statewide and national choirs and orchestras. Our spirit will live on. Our bodies will soon be absent. The spiritual place we've occupied will fade a bit later. But though school takes place in a physical environment, the majority of our learning takes place right here. The space that our Barstow education occupies within our own heads is vast. For example, we've read 52 plays and novels in high school, traversing the space-time continuum over a period of 4 millennia. We've formed bonds, covalent and ionic. We've mastered integrals, derivatives, and infinite series alike. We can connect something so innocent as sugar to political and economic implications in the Caribbean, West Africa, Asia. 1,200 vocab words are somewhat permanently lodged in our temporal lobes, as are countless words that allow us to speak conversationally in Spanish, French, or Chinese. Our Barstow intellectual legacy will be with us forever. Sadly, but not really sadly, we are also in a place no one wants to stay. As gravity brings things closer together, forces start to pull them back apart. To go along with the star analogy, our class, which is basically a fiery red giant, is about to go supernova. That red giant has reached the end of its life, and its core, the class of 2016, will soon explode, blowing each of us far apart, scattering each individual talent to a different university across the country. The end of one thing, but the beginning of another. Stasis is not an option. We have grown comfortable with our sense of place, not wanting to leave, but forces of disorder have made this somewhere we can no longer stay. We've arrived at the end of our walk to a place we have always wanted to be, a place we have loved as we made our way through these halls. But we know that these feelings are not enough to keep us here. We are not done growing, learning, and exploring. So, this day brings not just a graduation, but also, more importantly, a commencement, the start of something new. We've reached the end of this road. Nobody wants to be here, and nobody wants to leave. Let's go. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Our valedictorian this evening is Emily Reed. Emily has attended the Barstow School since kindergarten. She is a member of Barstow's Cum Laude Society, National Honor Society, and Spanish Honor Society chapters. During her sophomore year, she earned the Congressional Gold Award and the Girl Scouts Gold Award for creating a national online math enrichment program for lower school students. Emily also made an impact in student publications for 3 years, acting as the layout editor for her senior yearbook. She has been a member of the Barstow tennis team throughout upper school, winning a team state championship her sophomore year and serving as captain her senior year. Emily will be attending Brown University in the fall, where she plans to study applied mathematics. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our valedictorian, Emily Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. For my AP research paper this year, I wrote about the Baroque composer J.S. Bach and the mathematical and symmetrical methods to his compositions. My favorite piece that I researched was this short 3-line crab canon because it was written as a puzzle to the reader. If you look at the end of the score, you can see a small inverted treble clef, and that means that the lines of music can mirror each other in time. In all, the piece can be played forwards, backwards, and forwards and backwards simultaneously, all to the constant tick of the metronome. But my question is, how can we measure that constant flow of time that Bach so effortlessly captured in a few lines of notes? Think of the casual moments in a day when phrases about time are muttered. Don't waste time. Don't live in the past. Time flies, and time is up. The simple idea of time always gets portrayed as a precious, if expendable substance slipping through our fingers. But the concept is not tangible. We cannot see it, and we cannot hold it. Clocks and hourglasses represent it abstractly. One of the books that we read this year was Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. The entirety of this novel takes place over the course of a single day. In one scene, Peter Walsh walks the streets of London after visiting his former love and receiving an invitation to her party in the evening. Or, as Woolf writes, he stepped down the street, speaking to himself rhythmically, in time with the flow of the sound, the direct downright sound of Big Ben striking the half hour, the leaden circles dissolved in the air. Yes, these characters walk to the chimes of the clock. It's strange because time governs everyone. Meticulous planning of the next day's schedule or countdowns to the day's end dominate an almost mechanical daily existence. We reminisce about the old times and worry about upcoming job interviews. Days are filled with predictions, feeble attempts to save ourselves from surprises or disappointments in an unknown future. The crystal ball is now a common trope. Milk jugs pronounce their own expiration dates, and weathermen analyze, usually incorrectly, the week's forecast. But Dalloway's dissolving leaden circles prove time an illusion. We give that name in attempt to measure something that constantly flows and changes. You cannot contain it in jiffies, hours, or eons. As of now, we are not strong enough to manipulate its unchangeable composition. Since time remains one of the universe's many unsolved mysteries, of course we must try to explain it and harness it for our own use. But our subjective definition does not account for its true scientific properties. Time is continuous. And if we can stop living with time's abstract measurements, we can genuinely live in the present, free from history and impending tomorrows. So, my question is, what time is it? Right now, if we measure this exact moment, it's May 23rd, 2016, at about 8:20 p.m. It's our graduation time, and here we are watching those last grains of sand fall. But don't see this as the end of the clock. See it as part of the continuum, as any given note in Bach's canon. Value the past, but don't dwell on it. Welcome the future, but don't rush into it. Right now and always, live at the present. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Emily. Our graduation speaker is Mr. Josh Earnest, class of 1993. Josh Earnest is the current White House press secretary. He is the third person to serve in this position during the presidency of Barack Obama. Josh was born in Kansas City, Missouri, the son of Jeannie, a psychologist, and Donald, a high school athletics administrator. He attended the Barstow School on a scholarship and played baseball and basketball. Josh graduated from Rice University in 1997 with a degree in political science and policy studies. He joined Senator Obama's presidential campaign in March of 2007 as Senator Obama's Iowa Communications Director. After Senator Obama's Iowa caucus victory, Josh worked as a top communications aide in several primary contests, including South Carolina, Texas, and Pennsylvania. During the 2008 general election, Josh served as the campaign's deputy communications director. After Senator Obama was elected president, Josh moved to Washington, D.C., and served as the communications director for the Presidential Inaugural Committee. Josh started at the White House on President Obama's first full day of office in January 21st, 2009, as Deputy Press Secretary under Robert Gibbs. Later, Josh was promoted and served as Principal Deputy White House Press Secretary and Chief of Staff to Jay Carney, occasionally filling in during press briefings. Josh is the voice of West Wing Week, an online video series produced by the White House that chronicles the president's activities each week. Josh lives with his wife and son in Alexandria, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Josh Earnest.
I feel so fortunate to be here. Mr. Foster, Chairman Lacey, Ms. Bartow, Emily, Sophia, distinguished faculty, talented staff, proud parents, supportive friends, nostalgic alums, and of course, the celebrated graduating class of 2016. I feel so fortunate to be here with you tonight. Thank you for making me feel so at home. 23 years have passed since I sat in your seat. Now, to be clear, I didn't sit right where you were sitting. On my graduation day in 1993, it didn't just rain all afternoon, it rained all evening, too. So our commencement exercises were held indoors in the auditorium. So I'm relieved that the weather cleared up for you and has given me the chance to relive and celebrate my Barstow experience outdoors. I sat down to begin writing this speech aboard Air Force One on the President's flight to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It's fair to say that 23 years ago, I didn't think I'd be going to Saudi Arabia, let alone imagine how I'd be getting there. You've already figured out by now that there are plenty of things in life that just aren't quite as cool as they sound. In fact, there are plenty of things about working at the White House that are not nearly as glamorous as they seem. Flying on Air Force One is not among them. It totally lives up to the hype. So yes, I've had many unforgettable moments at the White House over the last 7 years. Sitting in the Oval Office at the Resolute desk, hearing the president say he wanted me to be his press secretary is certainly a highlight. I wasn't just excited to get the job, I was also relieved that the president's personal assistant had reminded me to put on my suit jacket before I went in to see him. It was not a moment that I wanted to remember feeling underdressed. My work at the White House has been challenging, historic, consequential, and almost always worth the effort. But nothing has made my life feel fuller than when my wife and I had our first child almost 2 years ago. Watching him grow and thrive over the last 2 years has been the greatest joy of my life. So I can imagine how joyful your parents are about all that you have accomplished. So tonight, and in the weeks over the summer, humor them with that extra long hug. Listen and smile as they tell you how proud they are of you. Thank them for their love and support. Be patient with them as they snap some extra photos, and yes, as you explain to them again how to post them to Instagram. I haven't been doing the dad thing for even 2 years yet, but after 18 years of it, your parents have certainly earned it. But here's what you and your parents should understand. 23 years ago, I was genuinely anxious on my graduation day. I didn't have an itinerary for the journey that lay ahead, and it was unsettling. My parents will tell you that I was a cautious kid. My childhood folklore begins with a story about how I didn't start walking till I was 18 months old. My mom says it was primarily because I didn't want to try walking until I was absolutely sure that I could do it. The same was true of riding a bike. I have vivid memories of being 5 years old and tentatively agreeing to allow my father to remove the training wheels from my bike. He did that while my 3-year-old brother raced down the hill on the street in front of our house on just 2 wheels. So my explanation for how I ended up here may surprise you. Even though I am not, by any means, a death-defying thrill seeker, I have been willing to take risks that have made all the difference. Now, before any risk-averse parents rush to the stage and try to unplug the microphone, let me tell you what I mean and what I don't mean. For instance, you should not text while driving. That's not worth the risk. But I do mean that you should send an unsolicited note to the classmate you've never met in Humanities 101 who unexpectedly raised her hand to say something smart in class. You should not get a large tattoo on your back marking the overseas adventure that you took with your friends. But you should consider leaving your college friends behind for a year while you study abroad somewhere you've never been. You should not blow an entire summer's worth of paychecks for tickets to what you hope will be a life-altering Drake concert. With all due respect to Drake, that's just not likely. But if you can swing it, you should forego at least a few of those summer paychecks so that you can volunteer for a cause that you really, really believe in. My time at Barstow prepared me well for a lifetime of risk-taking. Now I realize that attending Barstow isn't exactly running wild with Bear Grylls. There's no safety equipment that needs to be checked before classes start, and Barstow, at least for as long as anyone around here can remember, has prided itself, as it should, on being a community where students and their interests are nurtured. I started playing baseball at a young age, and I loved it. In high school, I didn't throw very hard, but I was effective because I could throw strikes. We didn't have a standout team, and at most other schools, I would not have been a standout pitcher. But Barstow gave me the chance to do something that I loved. Barstow also gave me the chance to try things that I hadn't done before. My senior year, Barstow staged a production of West Side Story. My buddies and I could sing loud, but we couldn't dance. At other schools, if we'd have even auditioned, we never would have gotten a role. But at Barstow, I got a part and even a short singing solo. The rehearsals were scheduled later in the evening so that several of us could attend baseball practice before hitting the stage. In short, Barstow made it happen, even though I'm confident that the only people who remember anything about that performance are those of us who were fortunate enough to be in it. But when you consider that my job now requires me to stand on stage on live TV for an hour every day, answering questions, you can see why the challenge of remembering my lines in the musical or rearing back to throw a fastball as everyone is watching to see if I could throw a strike qualifies as relevant experience that I could only get at Barstow. Barstow's teachers and coaches have supported you through success and failure. Some of them have been investing in students here for longer than they may even want to admit. I got plenty of encouragement from Coach Gabler on the basketball court, even though there was very little risk of us making it to the state finals. He had to wait a couple more years before he had the players for that. I got plenty of help in math from Mr. Frank and Ms. Pagano, even though the problem would have made more sense if I'd have spent a little more time on my homework the night before. Mr. Daniel patiently offered explanations during physics labs, even when the smell of my mistakes from the circuit board permeated the entire classroom. Do you even have those circuit boards anymore, Mr. Daniel? Point is, your teachers and coaches, the Barstow community, has invested in you. They've supported you. They have had your back at every turn. Now that you're graduating, it's time to make the most of the confidence that they've instilled in you. It's time for you to invest in something. And like the fine print on the ad says, your parents can attest to this, I'm sure, every investment involves risk. So let me give you 3 examples of the kinds of risks that I've found are worth the taking. First, pursuing your passion is worth the risk. I had spent a couple of years after college working in Texas politics, and I decided if I was going to try to make a career out of it, I should move to the place where everyone's career is politics. So I moved to Washington, D.C. in January of 2001. Just 2 months after a Republican was elected to replace a Democratic president, and Republicans regained the majority in the Senate. In short, it was a terrible time to be a job-hunting Democratic staffer in Washington, D.C. At least that's what several prospective employers told me at the time. I moved to D.C. without any specific job leads. I didn't really have any connections. I didn't have any Washington experience, of course. But worst of all, I didn't have a place to live. For the first few weeks in town, I slept on the floor of an acquaintance's spare bedroom. And when I say spare, I mean it both in the sense that the room was extra, but also in the sense that it was totally unfurnished. I slept on the floor, surrounded by the suitcases and boxes that I'd managed to load into my car for the drive from Texas. The feng shui was, shall we say, not ideal. One night, after I'd been there for a couple of weeks, a friend of mine who was in town saw the room where I was staying and said, "You know, one day, this is going to make a great story." I have to admit, at the time, I wasn't so sure. I was pounding the pavement, I was running out of money, and I was wondering, as were all my friends and family, whether my DC risk would pay off. The closest I would ever get to the White House, it seemed, was the behind-the-scenes tour of the West Wing that I got from the friend of a friend just a couple of weeks after I made the move. I still need to find that picture of Josh Earnest, the tourist, standing in front of the White House podium. In all, I spent 5 months looking for a job before I finally found one working for a political consultant who was instrumental in helping me land on the Obama campaign 6 years later, which is a good segue to a second good reason to take a risk: fighting for what you believe in. Even if you don't know you'll win, especially if you don't know that you'll win. My first job on the 2008 presidential campaign actually started in December 2006, and it wasn't with then Senator Barack Obama. I had worked on a losing Democratic campaign in Florida that year, and I was offered the chance to work as the communications chief on then Iowa Governor Tom Vilsack's campaign for president. So I packed up my belongings in Florida and drove to Iowa. I still remember signing the lease on my apartment in West Des Moines, Iowa, and the property manager asking me, "Tell me again why you're leaving Florida and moving to Iowa in December?" Those words, unfortunately, were ringing in my ears 2 months later when Governor Vilsack abruptly withdrew from the campaign when it became clear that he would not win. The silver lining in that cloud for me was that the presidential nomination contests start in Iowa. So I had a head start on all the other aspiring Democratic aides. I was already there and immediately started fielding job offers from the other campaigns. The offer I decided to accept was working for Senator Obama. And believe it or not, there was a time when it was inconceivable that a 40-something black man named Barack Hussein Obama could be elected President of the United States. It's strange how normal it seems now, but 9 years ago, he was considered an inspiring speaker, but a newcomer, alongside heavyweights like then Senator Hillary Clinton and John Edwards. Some of my good friends who were rooting me on from the sidelines raised their eyebrows that I would move to Iowa to work for an underdog in the first place, only to see him drop out and watch me join the campaign of a candidate that was only a little less of a long shot. But the pitch from the Obama team was a good one. If Obama wins Iowa, he's likely to be the next president of the United States. And if he doesn't, he won't. The rest, of course, is history. And the risk that I took in Iowa, twice, to work for the candidate I believed in, and not just the candidate that everyone figured would win, made all the difference. Let's face it, it's cool to be cynical these days. It's easy to sit back and act like we don't care. It's easy to see other people's and the world's imperfections. Faced with the problems and, yes, dangers of the world, we all feel the pull to withdraw. There's a strong and natural tendency to think that I should just take care of myself and my own. Make friends in college who look and sound and think just like my Barstow friends. To be blunt, that's the wrong lesson. Barstow has instilled you with the confidence, the skills, and the values, not just to fortify Barstow, but to share with the world, to change the world. So here's the final risk that's worth taking, and it's simple. Be optimistic. President Obama often says, if you had to choose a moment in human history to live, you'd choose right now. The world is wealthier, healthier, better educated, less violent, more tolerant, more socially conscious, and more attentive to the vulnerable than it has ever been. Our country and our world are changing in ways that we could never have predicted. But that's not something to fear. Don't be intimidated by it. That's something to relish. That's something to celebrate. That's something to embrace. The loving investment of your parents, the patient commitment of your teachers, and your own hard work, they've paid off. What President Obama said about the world is true of all of you. There is no Barstow graduating class that has ever been better prepared for the risks that you'll need to take to leave your mark on the world. Congratulations.
Thank you, Josh. Will the class of 2016 please rise? By the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees in the state of Missouri, I now confer upon you the status of high school graduate. Please come forward as your name is called. You may be seated.
Logan Abraham Frederick Ball. Jonathan George Butch. Tiffany Morgan Daddle. Grace Ann Dockhorn. Isabel Nicole Thomas, cum laude, Natural Honor Society. Madeline Mackenzie Vasquez. Caroline McGraw Rock. Lauren Sally Bernard, cum laude, National Honor Society. Teague Elizabeth Brown. Chloe Margaret Ketchmark, cum laude, National Honor Society. Abigail Brooke Krause. Kennedy Elise Price. Don Oliver Walsworth III, National Honor Society. Sarah Ray Eliashar. Jared Anthony Gillen, cum laude, National Honor Society. Rebecca Helen Myers. Ryan Thomas Olson. Emily Catherine Reed, cum laude, National Honor Society. Lily Gwen Tucker. Jackson Henning Gosha. Lisa Michelle Maida. Sophia Grazia Dwyer Morrow, cum laude, National Honor Society. Emily Rose Trainin. Skylar Shea Hofstra Rush. Anirudh Venkatesh Vadlamani. Catherine Wallingford Grabowski, National Honor Society. Margaret Amelia Canan. Shivani Ramesh Lokre, National Honor Society. Bailey Paige Childers. Colin Nicholas Hawley. Elizabeth Claire Bauman. Caitlin Grace Kushner. Shanley Francis Lenart, cum laude, National Honor Society. Valerie Grace Mombello, cum laude, National Honor Society. Mitchell Eugene Picard. Gary Francis Whitaker. Sarah Min Shu, National Honor Society. Madeline Savannah Hubbard. Avery James Lofton. Rachel Marie Matthews. Alexa Grace Burt. Yu Chi Feng, cum laude. Chang Gong, cum laude, National Honor Society. Jariah Jewel Horn. Armand Antonio Javaheri. Guanlin Lee. Allison Elizabeth Lopez. Adam Joseph Mayali. Ching Hung Meng. Nargiza Negaman. Rosie Angèle Pasqualini. Michaela Elaine Rojas, National Honor Society. Carl Owen Sheeran. Hansu Yoon. Melissa Fergian Japan. Kaka Lee, cum laude, National Honor Society. Wanjo Peck, National Honor Society. Whitaker Anthony James. Inger Chen.
The charge is given by the headmaster to the graduating class as the final message from the school. Before I give the charge today, I would like to recognize 3 of our trustees. In 2008, when I arrived at the Barstow School, the school, like many other schools in the United States, was struggling with the economic crisis. In addition, we had a declining enrollment and a debt that was $3 million higher than our endowment. I would like to call the following gentlemen forward to stand in front and face the audience: Mr. Jim Schwartz, Mr. Doug Dockhorn, and Mr. Richard English. Jim, Doug, and Richard have been members of the board for a combined 33 years, and they, along with the other trustees, have been the architects of this grand school changing dramatically since 2008. Enrollment is at a record high. The endowment has increased $6 million, and the annual fund just passed $1 million. These gentlemen have given their all to this school. Doug is an alumnus of this school, and tonight I would like to announce that Mr. Jim Schwartz and Mr. Richard English are hereby granted the status of honorary alumni of the Barstow School. Now for our charge. Will the class of 2016 please rise? You have been given the best your school has to offer. Your charge tonight is an echo of my prayer for you that I gave you at baccalaureate. Be kind to each other. Love each other unconditionally. You can change the world through simple acts of kindness and caring. So one final time, sing with all your heart. The angels will hear, you'll see. In the end, love will always win. We are proud of you. We love you. We will miss you. You are the class of 2016. You are the Barstow School. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you all the Barstow class of 2016.